wide apart. In plainer speaking, people who are eligible do not vote. In fact, many of them do not even register to vote. The second level is those who even bother to register at all. About 24% across constituencies do not turn up on voting day.
Why is that?
This is what we now need to interrogate. If I may hazard a view in this regard, rational people engage in an activity because it has the potential to change the landscape, to bring about some concrete change. And so when people feel that there's no change that can result from their voting, then there's no incentive. They're not incentivized to vote. Where people feel that their vote will have some impact, it is likely to change anything, then people will be motivated to vote. So we've had a de-energized democracy in this country for a very long time, where people have always known what the outcome was going to be, because the opposition was in tatters, it was in disarray, it was characterized by splits and splinterings. Too many political parties saying pretty much the same thing, but unable to come together and say it from
You're currently leading UDC. Are you still standing in the statement?
Yes. Let me finish this point, because it's very important. And it's important because as opposition leaders, we must also be very honest in admitting our own faults and follies where we have such. So we must not be quick to defend and deny. We must also acknowledge where we've erred and failed our people. We've failed our people consistently over the years by failing to unite as the opposition. And when we made the effort, when the negotiations to establish a united opposition took off, people were enthused. People became very motivated. People now felt that there was a real opportunity for change. And when those talks failed in the manner that they did, it was a huge blow to the opposition and their credibility. Not any particular organization, but all of us. Which is why it was critical for us then to try and rescue this project, so that we may yet encourage Botswana to feel that their vote will mean something. They are not stupid. These ordinary people are very smart. So when you want them to keep doing the same thing that they've done over the years, because you as the leaders are doing exactly what you've done, which has not produced any spectacular results and change, then you want to waste their time. And you are now actually demotivating them. So which is why I have laid the blame for the reduced interest in voting and in political activity on the political leadership. So it is our gig, it is our responsibility to re-energize democracy. And so when we do, people will be drawn from their gated communities, people will be drawn from their houses.
Do you have the time before elections?
Yes, there's plenty of time. There is. We need to send a message that says we are serious, and we are. Those of us who've stayed the course have given testimony to the voter that we are serious. It's not about your political party. And this is what politicians fail to appreciate at times. Even the president. There's a point where you transcend the artificial boundaries of party and party politics. You become a national leader. You acknowledge faults and problems where any there are. And you reason things from the standpoint of a leader who tries to unify a nation. So when we criticize the president for having failed to unify, we as opposition must also take some blame where we fail to become these unitary centers for our people. So it is important for us to transcend party politics, to realize that the political party is but a vehicle. Let us not be stuck with the vehicle. Let us focus on the more serious issues of national interest. It's about Botswana and let's defend the interests of Botswana. It's not about the interests of a political party.
So would you believe in the slogan that the president and his government are running with Botswana First for 2016? Is that something that you envision?
Botswana First as a slogan is there's nothing wrong with.
Because he spoke about it during the State of the Nation address.
Botswana First, in the manner that the president says it, as mere rhetoric, which has absolutely no effect, which is not attended by any programs that translate Botswana First, and we say, when you do that, we say Botswana First, and you take Botswana and put them at the helm, then you are giving meaning to the slogan Botswana First. Otherwise it's empty sloganeering, and we are about action, not slogans. So it's important. So the revolution issue, which is what I want to conclude on, means that when people feel excluded, and a lot of our people feel excluded, they express their disdain for the processes. Many of our people, especially young people, do not think that the vote will deliver any change, or at least the change that they want. You want them to go and vote when they don't believe in the process. First, you've got to give them a reason to vote, because it might change something. If it won't, then it doesn't make sense, they think, to vote. So we need to invest the act of voting with the potential to deliver change. And we do so when we act credibly as opposition leaders, when we act in unison as opposition. And that is very, very important. Anybody who breaks ranks and tries to go his own separate way is very selfish, very self-centered, and terribly politically immature.
Are you speaking about the leader of BSCP?
No, I'm not speaking about any person. I'm making a general statement that anybody who breaks ranks, who moves away from this unison that is supposed to give the opposition more potency and deliver change to our people, any such person is politically immature, is very short-sighted, is very self-centered, and such person may be the reason why people are not enthused to go and vote. So the desertion of the polling booth is a function and critical part of the conduct of such leaders. That's the point I make. So a revolution will occur, whether we like it or not, where people feel excluded, where they feel what they say doesn't matter, there's no prospect of their views and ideas being channeled into any meaningful action. When people get to that point, and where their conditions of living keep deteriorating in the manner they are for many of our people, they will reach a point where they will now not go the route of the polling booth. They will go a different route. I do not know what that route is.
But you are ready to be part of that.
But I am ready to be part of any alternative that delivers change. I've said this because we need to change things and change them really fast. And if many of our people take that route and do not want to wait for elections whose outcome can actually be manipulated. Elections are so manipulable. We've seen in the Bulela Ditso process of the Botswana Democratic Party. They're so highly manipulable. They are being manipulated as we speak. They will continue to be manipulated. And so you ask, if they can manipulate these things in relation to themselves, amongst themselves, what then of a situation where they now have to face the opposition? The manipulation is at its most evil. And so we think, and that's why I said to the President of this Republic, that he must give us sound assurances leading up to the next elections, that the electoral processes will be credible. We want those assurances, because we will not engage in a farce. I personally will not engage in a farce. And I will tell my people that this is a farce when I see it as a farce.
Would you boycott the elections?
If there was sound reason to do so, yes, I would.
Give me two things which will make people boycott the elections.
If the integrity of the electoral process is not guaranteed, it's not assured, then I would not want to participate in an electoral process that has no integrity. We want, and we've raised these issues, that you see the storylines that are being created in the government media. There's a near total blackout on the opposition. Almost nothing is reportable about the opposition except where there's a problem. Then the opposition makes headline news. It doesn't matter which political party it is. Now, the research done by Democracy Research some few years back, established that over 60% of the population of this country rely for their basic information on the government media. And so when the government media in its storylines exalts and extols the president, his ministers, everything about the president, everything about his government, and does not present any alternative viewpoint, when that is the diet in which our people are being fed day in, day out, you have begun to distort the playfield, in that for the opposition to reach the voter, they have to go there physically, and that's an expenditure of enormous resources. And what we are asking the BDP government to do is to open these airwaves, give us coverage. Let us also advertise and motivate our policies and programs on BTV without let or hindrance, on RB1, RB2, in the daily news. Once you do that, you are now giving some credence to the process. And I've said this also to the European ambassadors in this country. I've said to them, it doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody or anything for them to send observers here close to the elections. When election or vote rigging takes place way before, in the registration process. In Zambia, one of the things that the opposition parties then insisted on was even knowing where the ballot papers were going to be printed and inspecting those facilities. So they were given access in order to satisfy themselves that the process is credible. This is what you're calling for. That is what we want. We want transparency in relation to every single aspect of the electoral process. Then we will be able to make a call as to whether these elections are free and fair. So the noises that were being made by those who went to observe the elections in Zimbabwe, and they were calling for an audit, I think they must start closer home and audit their own processes here.
Do you have a timeline in terms of what you want before the elections? We are literally now in the last 12 months before the elections.
Well, we want all these things to be in place. We want to understand these things by the first quarter of 2014. That's when we will now make a call as to whether we believe in the process. And if we don't, we will also make a call as to what should happen. And when we make that decision, there will be no stopping us. I want to tell you now, and I want to tell the nation without any equivocation.
This is not Duma Boko's call. This is the umbrella for democratic change.
It will be a national call. See, I interact with a lot of people. People are saying to me, we want a movement. We want you to lead some wave that shakes this government up. And I'm saying, let's canalize our anger, our frustrations, and channel them into voting. But we can only do so, and I'm a firm believer in elections, but in credible elections, not just elections for their own sake. I want credible elections. I want elections informed by some democratic ethic, which is painfully lacking in our current setup. So if we reinfuse the democratic ethic in our electoral system, in our electoral processes, and they are credible, then I'm a firm believer in that process.
Of late, we had in Parliament two MPs talking about two things which you touched about. Obviously, there is that issue of the living wage versus the minimum wage. You also are talking about the youth that is in employment. There are those who suggest that there has to be some way that private companies for that matter, government can assist them in absorbing all these students who are graduates currently roaming the streets. What are your views on those two?
The issue of youth unemployment is a very complex one, because youth unemployment is also exacerbated by the fact that we produce young people from our education system who are incapable of generating employment for themselves in most cases. So we need to reconfigure our education system, and we in the BNF and in the umbrella have suggested over the years what we've called education with production. Education that enables a person to pursue math and speak good English and write very well, write good novels when they do write or whatever they write, but also an education that is capable of producing entrepreneurs at the earliest levels. By junior high, by the end of senior high school, we must have people who are entrepreneurially attuned, if I may put it that way. And the education system must generate such people. Then these people will come up with business ideas. They will be able to implement these. That is a more long-term issue. In the short to medium term, we have young people whose only reprieve is something called what? Young Farmers Fund. Our young people are talented in more ways than just farming, and a sizable number of them are not even interested in farming anyway. And even if they were, there are no prospects in farming, at least in the manner in which farming is done. I'm not even mentioning backyard gardening. I'm talking rain-fed farming when there's no rain. So what we need is to open more avenues to exploit the talents of our young people. Young people need, some of them are artists, a lot of them are musicians. They need to be assisted to establish businesses in consonance with the talents that they have. So let us not force them to become farmers. If we opened the space somewhat and enabled them to express themselves, express their talents, and we assisted them to make a living, to eke out a living from the expression of these talents that they are imbued with, then they would be able not only to employ themselves, but to employ other young people. So it is important for us to do this. And let us not confine the issue of arts to President Day, the competitions, and that's it. No. We want people to make... Look at BTV. In my heydays, I was in the drama club. I used to act. And I know a lot of people who were actors who participated in those activities then. I know a lot of young people now who want to express their talents in acting, producing local dramas and movies that tell homebrewed stories, that tell relevant stories to our people, which should be aired on BTV, from which these young people could make a lot of money. We want these things to be done, and it's not rocket science. These young people have talent. Let's sit down with them. And you know, part of the problem, you have an old man heading the Ministry of Youth. He has no connection with the youth. He doesn't know what the youth want. You mean this government can't find a more youthful person who can be the face of a Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture? Somebody more vibrant, somebody more youthful, somebody who will connect immediately with young people. What I'm saying is, let's take young people more seriously than we are doing now, and enable them to use their God-given talents to make money, and they will generate employment for themselves and others.
Boko, my final question tonight. We are less than 12 months to go before the national elections. What is the one thing that you would love to see happen in this country? Just the one thing. As the president of the Botswana National Front and Umbrella for Democratic Change.
Good God, there's so many things.
The one that gives you sleepless nights.
The thing that troubles me really is the fact that our people seem to have lost faith and confidence in the electoral system by consistently not registering to vote and not voting even when they have registered. What I would want is for our people, I know those who don't register are disgruntled, and they believe that there's no way to channel their disgruntlement because their disgruntlement will not bring change, or it may not achieve the change that they so desperately want. I want to send out a word of encouragement to them, and to say to them, please register this one time and vote for change. Be the change that you want to see. And again, a lot of our people seem to think that there are certain individuals in society who are destined to be politicians, that it is their job to change society. It's not anybody's job to change society. It is the collective responsibility of us all to change our society, and we must all play our part, so that when we criticize the leaders and the activists, we must ourselves examine our own contributions to some of these abuses and excesses that we are suffering, and understand that it is in part from our lack of involvement, or our, I want to say, apathy, but you dislike I don't like this word because it's used by academics to describe something they do not understand. It doesn't seem to me that when people don't vote, they are apathetic. They're not disinterested. They are very interested. What it does mean is that they have lost faith and confidence in the processes, and they're trying to define a different route. But what I'm saying to them is, let's go into the polling booths and vote for change. And if we all rise from our dwellings, our abodes, all our comfort zones, and we re-enter the public space, all of us, in the manner that our public sector workers did during their strike, when they united all of us in appreciating that we so desperately need each other. If we can rediscover the fervor that inspired that strike and harness those emotions and rekindle them and channel them into a vote for change, I think we may yet be delivered from this regime.
President of Botswana National Front, Duma, Boko, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you very much, and I thank your listeners.
Thank you, sir.